Hey, it's Martavis Bryant, a.k.a. Martin McBride, and you listen to the Fantasy Footballers Podcast.
Welcome to the Fantasy Footballers Podcast with your hosts, Andy Holloway, Jason Moore, and Mike Wright.
Oh, Marty! Oh, Marty!
We've got to go back!
Back in time, 6 drug tests ago.
Wow.
Welcome. We'll get into it. Welcome to the Fantasy Footballers Podcast for Tuesday, March 15th. And we've got a lot to cover today. We got a great show. We really do. We have
the best. Superb show today.
Yeah, I mean, these guys agree with me. We've got breakouts. We got all the news. We're fresh off a free agent news episode from Thursday of last week. And we've got some more news to break for you guys. Part of that being Martavis Bryant. And I guess we will get into that here at the top because my quick question relates to Martavis Bryant, so we can talk about that. But before we do, I do want to let everybody know where they can find us. We're on iTunes, and one of the ways that you can support us, if you like the show and you subscribe, that's step 1, subscribe on iTunes or wherever you're listening. Step 2, leave us a review. That's another way that really helps our independent podcast. We're also on Twitter at the FF Ballers. We are on YouTube with the new set, got some cameras up, got things going. I think everything's working. I don't know.
We never know.
But you can find us on the web at thefantasyfootballers.com, and we're also on Patreon at jointhefoot.com. And like I said, we got our breakouts today. Jason is here. Mike is here. Myself. We're all going to bring 3 different breakouts to you for 2016. These are early breakouts. These are subject to change if the draft or free agency throws something, into the wheel. What do they say? Throw a
wrench?
A wrench. There it is.
It's a real tough one.
And so, and then we got some mailbag too. We promised we would answer some questions from last week we didn't get to, so we're going to do that as well. So the big news right now, Martavis Bryant, he's been suspended by the league for at least a year. And this is ultimately a very sad thing. Everything that the team and his agent and his family is saying is this is a cry for help. This is 6 failed drug tests after being suspended at the beginning of last year. And from what we understand, there's some depression issues and things going on. And so very unfortunate that he's suspended yet again, and this is what we're talking about in the offseason.
Yeah, and I think where there was a communication breakdown because I believe when the Steelers were talking to Bryant at the Combine, he told him, he said, look, guys, I'm a burner. And the Steelers said, oh, yeah, you are. You're fast. And he said, no, guys, I'm a burner. And then wink, wink. And
they overlooked it.
Yeah, they didn't get it.
Yeah.
I mean, this is Darryl Washington, Josh Gordon. We've seen
Blackman. He had a different problem,
but it is a repeated problem. It's something that has to get fixed at a deeper level. Johnny Manziel and his redundancy of errors is the problem here. And we got to remember, these are 21, 22-year-old guys coming into the league.
Getting rich.
Different backgrounds, different people around them, and it just shows.
They're also people.
But this is,
we sometimes we overlook the fact that these are human beings. And
they're not just stat lines?
Yeah. Speaking
Speaking of stat lines, what do you expect from the Martavis Bryant suspension in terms of the Steelers' offense? One stat I looked at this weekend, they averaged almost 7 points less per game without Martavis Bryant on the field. But you got Le'Veon Bell coming back last year and the year before, going back to his entire career since Martavis came in. You got Ladarius Green recently signed. You have Big Ben. You got Antonio Brown. Those are and then you got Wheaton, Sammy Coates. But you have a lot of pieces. Pittsburgh's one of the heaviest teams in terms of fantasy impact guys. So, Jason, what is your take on Martavis going down?
Martavis going down is the first thing that sticks out to me is that he was their number 1 red zone target. So when you've got the red zone target gone, when he was in, he was the most used guy. You got to go, okay, when they get to that spot, who are they going to use? And I have to think just in the red zone that it's going to be Ladarius Green. You've got a big, giant monster of a man, a 6'6" guy who presents a very good target. Obviously, Antonio Brown's going to get his. That's where I think you're going to have one big change is red zone, using the tight end more. And then For me, I think that what this does is this allows that second and third receiver to really show who's better between Markus Wheaton, who's going to have an opportunity to step up his game again, or Sammie Coates. And the truth is that Pittsburgh plays so many 3 wide receiver sets that even if you go into the year and Sammie Coates is the third wide receiver and not the second, he's going to have opportunity to get the ball. I definitely think he'll play ahead of Darius Hayward-Bay. Sammie Coates, to me, from a fantasy draft perspective, is very interesting because he's going to be very low. I think people are going to overdo the Markus Wheaton, bump him up too high, and overlook Sammie Coates, who I think is a really talented wide receiver.
I will say this. Last year, with the 4-game suspension, we didn't know how much you could buy into a guy like Wheaton or whoever the next option was because you knew they'd be gone in a few weeks. Now you are making a judgment call on who you think will be that next guy. Yes, I'm sure Mike, who owns Antonio Brown in our league of record, would love him to get 30 to 40 targets a game.
Which might happen.
But to be honest, but Wheaton flashed at times, good and bad. He did both. But there were games he made an impact and had a stat line for fantasy that would have been great. So I don't know if I believe that Coates... I think the talent's better than Wheaton. I'd sure like to see somebody catch the ball consistently, that Wheaton, Hayward-Bay, and Coates. I think that's what's going to be the definer.
Well, we talked about Coates last year a little bit because there's interest in him, 3rd-round pick. We had a lot of listeners were saying, what do you see for Sammie Coates? And looked back on the research, and the fact was that Pittsburgh simply doesn't use their rookie wide receivers.
Going all the way back.
Antonio Brown hardly used Martavis. It took him forever to even
Mike
get on
Wallace,
the field. Wallace,
Emmanuel
I think
Sanders.
Wallace was an okay rookie year, but it just doesn't happen. Sammie Coates, big guy for a receiver, 6'1", 212, and fast. The guy is very athletically gifted. That's where my not Antonio Brown wide receiver chips are probably going to go.
Really? Okay,
Yeah.
and I'm going to stay with the Wheaton because I do think they have confidence in him. And now that the role's defined, as of today, I like Wheaton quite a bit. So let's go ahead and talk about what's been happening in the NFL over the last 3 or 4 days.
News and notes from around the league.
Well, if Jason loves Latavius Murray, then Mike loves C.J. Anderson. And
Truth.
C.J. Anderson has been signed to a 4-year, $18 million deal with the winners of every offseason, the Miami Dolphins. C.J. Anderson comes in, and now all of the Ajayi hype train can, settle down, slow down.
If the Broncos don't match.
That's and I do believe they could.
Really? Do they still have time?
Yeah.
Yes.
As of this recording, they still have time. That being said,
It's not
I don't know
happening.
why you would wait to the last minute. It's not like you either know you're going to match or you're not. What we do know is that C.J. Anderson is going to be the 3rd highest paid running back from this offseason.
They front-loaded his contract specifically so that Denver would have a harder decision to try and match it. As far as fantasy, it's not my favorite thing that he went to Miami. If they really do like Ajayi, like they were talking up.
You got Adam Gase there, familiar with
Yeah,
C.J. Anderson?
I like it, just not as much as him sticking in Denver and with the possibility that Ronnie Hillman won't be there. I think Anderson is a tremendously talented back. There was a funny exchange on Twitter where I can't remember the play. Oh, it was Chris Harris, the defense defender,
DB? Yeah.
and he tweeted out, he's like, "Wasn't Adam Gase the one who called Anderson fat?" And then I shake my head, and C.J. Anderson replied, "Yeah, he did."
Yeah, that's so great.
So Anderson's like, "Yeah, he did, and I fixed the problem," and Anderson became a monster. So there is tremendous upside here for Anderson. I don't know where he's going to get drafted, so that his value in the draft could be an issue.
All right, I don't want to linger here too long, but the reports have confirmed that the Bears offered more money to C.J. Anderson. And
Yes.
I just want to ask you the question right now. Jeremy Langford's sitting there as still the starting running back, but they've made offers now, and they want to bring somebody in. So where do we think the Jeremy Langford train is heading towards the draft season? Because I like him, but I like him because of the opportunity. I don't like him because I think he's an otherworldly talent. I don't think he's a bad running back. I honestly think he's probably a better running back than C.J. Anderson, if you ask me. But
that is you got to pump the brakes there.
I do, but I think, you know what I think C.J. Anderson does? I think he runs hard. I think he runs really hard.
It's a good trait.
So what about Jeremy Langford?
Jeremy Langford is a guy, I completely agree with you. He is an opportunity play. And right now it looks like he has a great opportunity in front of him. I think opportunity is more important than talent. Talent is second place to that. And right now, all of the best running backs are gone. So the only way that they're going to bring someone in who's going to supplant the opportunity of Jeremy Langford is if they draft like Ezekiel Elliott, which I don't expect the Bears to do. They've been working hard this offseason, and I would say successfully so, at their defense and kind of reshaping that. And so I would not expect them to take a top-flight rookie, but they'll draft a rookie or bring in another veteran back who I think now will probably slide in behind Langford as opposed to someone like C.J. Anderson or a top-flight guy who would go in and rock the boat.
Yeah, Langford it's all opportunity. And I don't know if I've thrown this out on the main show. I think I brought it up on our Patreon Mailbag show. But Ezekiel Elliott has been officially dubbed Eazy-E.
Mike will take every opportunity to let people know that this is official.
You got to throw?
Have you filed the paperwork with the league?
Yeah, the trademark is coming.
That's a great nickname.
You got to throw the flag in the ground because you got to let people know that
his name starts with Easy, and then his last name starts with E. It's Easy-E.
No, I get it. I think we all understand the actual nickname and how it works.
We know spelling.
All right, Mohamed Sanu was signed by the Falcons to a 5-year deal. He gets the opportunity to be the guy that gets thrown the ball when Julio Jones is tired. So, Mohamed Sanu, where do you put him in fantasy? I mean, is he in the wide receiver 3 category?
3, yeah.
All right. So
the 3.
It's good for Matt Ryan to have another pair of hands
and a big target. He's 6'3", right? Mohamed
to throw to.
Yeah, he's 6'3" or 6'2".
He's very big.
And I think Sanu's. I think he's good. I don't know if he's.
Who's better, Leonard Hankerson or Mohamed Sanu?
Mohamed Sanu.
Yes,
I agree. That's unanimous. And Leonard Hankerson had some games where he
That's
showed.
true.
So I think as a wide receiver
and
3.
As did Roddy White, obviously, over his career when they were still together, right? We see this everywhere. Wide receiver 2s can be successful. I'm just wondering if it's going to be more in the Hankerson up and down category or you're going to find somebody that could actually be at the upper end, it's Decker and Hearns and those guys.
Right. Yeah, he's more of a bye-week fill-in guy.
Every other week.
Yeah. More than I'm saying like for your fantasy team.
Yeah.
As opposed to a Decker who I'm plugging him in, he's going to start for me.
All right, the Jets signed Bilal, Powell, and Khiry Robinson to add to the new backfield with Mr. Matt Forte. However, the Jets did come out this week. They told Forte that they view him as an every down back. That's how I view this situation. I view Khiry Robinson as the Stephen Ridley in the rotation next year. I think he was paid to be the Stephen Ridley in the rotation next year. And Bilal Powell will be Bilal Powell. He's a pass-catching back. He is a 2-minute drill back. I think you're going to see Forte off the field in those situations. But I'm rising on Forte a little bit.
Powell basically got paid as much as Matt Forte did. The contract difference is not tremendous. So I know Forte was he likes that the Jets were telling him he's a 3-down back. I just don't see it. And I got a hot take for you guys. I don't know.
Ooh, let's have it.
How hot this is.
Matt Forte's nickname is Easy F. I know. Okay, Mike?
That's not even close. That's not
okay.
even.
All right, what's
that's
his
a
hot
terrible
take?
nickname.
Give us his hot take.
Khiry Robinson is the best runner on the Jets.
That's ridiculous.
Hogwash.
Yeah. All right. We can move to the next one. I'm gonna plant my flag with Andy here.
Runner.
I am rising on Matt Forte.
Yeah.
I think he is going to get the opportunity he needs. Clearly the talent he has. He's not over the hill yet. So give me Matt Forte if he can be had at a good draft position.
And we'll debate him more later because we can get into the impact of the quarterback.
I don't have a problem with Forte. I'm just saying I think Khiry Robinson is a good
he's your favorite
runner.
player in the league. All right, Tom Brady,
Second
Deflategate situation. There are rumors that the Patriots might be bracing for him to lose the appeal. They released an 8,000-word document on their website trying to once again debunk Deflategate. But the fact of the matter is we're just putting the news out there that Brady could indeed be facing that suspension to start the year. We don't know what will happen, and we'll let you know when we do. We talked about Martavis. The last piece of news I want to get to is Chris Hogan.
Yep.
He
Hogan.
is 6'3", and they're saying he could play outside.
Is he 3? I thought
and
he
he
was
was signed.
6'1".
He was
I think he's
signed by the
6'1".
Patriots.
I think he's 6'1".
He might be 6'1",
But
that's still tall.
But when you go and you sign with Tom Brady, you gain 2 inches of value
they put him
to your wide receiver height.
They put him on the machine, that stretching machine from The Princess Bride, and he gets a couple inches.
Yeah,
he is 6'1", not
Yeah, right.
6'3".
I like him. Chris Hogan is one of those guys who I've enjoyed watching. He had his.
They say he is always open.
Yeah, they call him 7-Eleven on
7-Eleven.
Hard Knocks.
That's right.
There was a report that Danny Amendola would retain the role that he was already in previously, which is the wide receiver 3, kind of the fill-in type of guy. And Hogan, if he takes the 2 spot, he will have an opportunity. Brandon LaFell had plenty of opportunities to be successful. And in the previous year, LaFell did have a great fantasy year. So if Hogan gets that role, I think he can succeed. And this, speaking of the offer sheets of C.J. Anderson, the Patriots gave Hogan an offer sheet because he was a restricted free agent. Immediately, the Bills said, "Oh yeah, okay, he's yours." They didn't even have to think about it because the team knew how they valued him. So that just piggybacks on what are the Broncos doing? Decide one way or the other.
Yeah, I agree. So I think that they may be in the midst of many different things right now in Denver too, with the quarterback situation and what they want to actually do. Do they need to pay him to just save face on the offensive side right now? It's tough in Denver, but you're the champ, so I have no pity for you.
Fantasy Forecast.
All right, we're looking to the future right now. Very early breakout picks. We want to bring them to you. This is a fun show. Guys that we really like right now to take a leap. That is what a breakout is. A player that will take it from this level, and I have my hand very low near the desk, to this level, up here where Chris Hogan is.
Hey.
So, guys that can make a big leap. Last year, what are some examples of breakouts from last year? Hearns?
Allen Hurns.
Allen Robinson.
Allen Robinson was a great breakout.
Huge breakout. We categorized Hopkins as a breakout.
DeAndre Hopkins?
Because he was very solid and then went nuclear and became nuke for fantasy football.
So, Mike, we'll let you get it started. Give us your breakout pick for 2016.
All right, I'm going to start off with a quarterback here. We've talked about him a little bit. A guy I like, was a rookie. Showed me enough that I believe he can succeed, and that is famous Jameis Winston.
Oh, here you go.
Oh,
Mike.
yeah, there. Oh, thank you.
You're welcome.
Jameis Winston has joined me on set here.
Miniature version.
Not to scale. Not to scale, Jameis. And it really started off slow. It did not only just start slow, it started with a full-on disaster. Week 1, if you remember, when the Bucks played the Titans, and people immediately were saying, "Did the Buccaneers make a mistake by taking Winston?" So it took him some time to calm down. As far as fantasy, it wasn't Week 7. Week 7 was the first time he put up a top 12, a quarterback 1 performance. But from Week 7 out, he was a QB1 5 times, and that's enough for me that I understand the growth that Winston has. In the final 11 games, he was 4 fantasy points better. His attempts slightly rose. I mean, so him throwing the ball, it didn't rise that much, but his completions went up. His yardage went up. He just became a more effective quarterback. Add on the fact that he scrambles them in every once in a while and gets some rushing touchdown bonuses. That's good stuff to add in. You have the coaching change. Lovie Smith is gone, and mostly because they wanted to retain Dirk Cutter, who they felt was crucial to the growth and Jameis really learning to become an NFL quarterback. So I like that. The offensive line from Football Outsiders was ranked very solid in the top half. And something we want to do for all these guys is we're going to give a projection so you know what we're talking about for the breakout. So for Jameis, I've got him around 4,400 yards with 30 touchdowns.
Wow, 4,400 yards.
Oh my goodness!
What did he do last year?
That is just over 4.
He threw for over 4 last
that's
year?
right. He was one of the
All
only
right.
two.
That's a big stat line, though.
That is.
I think it's bold.
Here, let me read off.
You're fine, but it's bold.
Well, I just want you to know that you're like, wow, 4,400 yards. He threw for over 4,000 last year.
Okay. Well, about 3,000 were to Mike Evans, I think.
And you know who's still on the team?
Yeah, that's
Doug Martin.
That's actually one of the things that I
Doug
really
Martin
like
too.
about Jameis Winston's situation is that there hasn't been a lot of turnover. All the weapons of the offense, Charles Sims still there, Doug Martin's still there, Mike Evans has another year of rapport with him, and even though there was change at the head coaching position, it was to bring their offensive coordinator, Dirk Cutter, to the head coach. So, yeah, I could see him taking a step forward. I guess since we've gone with the number 1 draft pick of last year, we might want to kick our next breakout to you, Andy.
Okay. That's fine.
Right.
I'm going with Marcus Mariota, which is ironic because, like Mike said, they started the year facing off and everyone compared them all year long. But I've been on the Mariota bandwagon all offseason, and it's only been enforced by the signing of the trade for DeMarco Murray and the signing of Rashard Mathews, a guy who is kind of a do-it-all wide receiver who I think can make an impact there, can help Dorial Green-Beckham. But I like Marcus Mariota. I know people aren't excited about Munchak staying there, but the thing I like about Munchak is everything he's said and done with Mariota since he became head coach, which is we're going to keep him in the shotgun. We're going to utilize his legs. We're going to continue to commit our offense into creating creative opportunities for him to do that. And that's going to be less on Munchak, more on the offensive coordinator, who I think can do that for Mariota. He's a 62% passer, and I see him in the mold fantasy-wise of Russell Wilson from a couple of years ago. And that's where I project his stat line. I have him at about 25 passing touchdowns, about 3,500 yards through the air. So he's not throwing for 5,000 yards, but somewhere in the 25 touchdown, 6 or 7 on the ground, 500 rushing yards.
6 or 7 on the ground is a lot.
Yeah, well, 6 is about where that's where I project him with 6, and I think that's fine. I think didn't Jameis get in 5 or 6 times last year?
I think it was only. Oh yeah, he got in 6 times.
Yeah, I'm very comfortable with that. Russell Wilson did that a couple of years ago when he was getting outside the pocket. He's a low interception
DeMarco Murray is
going to
help that as well, because once you get to the goal line, being able to have Jameis Winston have the threat of the running game, we see that with Cam, where he can roll out and take that goal line red zone rushing touchdown.
And Mariota was banged up, and the reason for that was an offensive line that struggled immensely. I think 38 sacks against Mariota. He got banged up a couple times because of that. They signed Ben Jones. They're supposedly looking at Luis Vasquez from
they got the
Denver coming into town to talk to him. They're going to reinforce that line. They're going to protect Mariota. They've got better weapons on offense, and he's 22 years old. He's ascending. So I think this is a natural next step. And so I have Mariota as a breakout top 12 type of guy with those numbers. I mean, that could be top 6 in the right type of league format.
Yeah, and you should be able to get him at a good value. So I'll go with my next guy, and since there was not a quarterback drafted at number 3, I'm going to have to go to
Landry Jones.
to a different position, but I will stick with the rookies. A rookie last year who I think is going to break out this year is Devante Parker. You've heard us talk about him a little bit. I'm sure you've heard a lot of different people talk about him because he is a very talented guy who came on strong at the end of last year. But here is kind of what we can expect or what we can hope for in Devante Parker and why. Before Week 12 last year, he was injured for part of it, but he wasn't used. Rashard Mathews was really their outside wide receiver. Before Week 12, he had 4 total catches. Total receptions on the year. He basically was not a part of
his
that
career.
team. Of his career.
Which
he
was still infinitely more than Brashad Perriman.
Yes.
400%.
Now, here's what happened, though.
And Kevin White.
From Week 12 to 17, the very end of the year, they started and here's a little note. Guess who stopped playing in Week 12?
Rashard
Mathews stopped playing. From Week 12 and on.
What a quitter.
Yeah, he quit the league. And so from Week 12 on, Devante Parker was the number 18 wide receiver in fantasy football as a rookie when Rashard Mathews was gone. Rashard Mathews is gone now. He's 6'3". He's got 4.4 speed. And Adam Gase has come in and uses his outside wide receiver more. Last year, no team No team used their slot receiver more than Miami with Jarvis Landry, and so they're going to start putting the ball outside more. Devante Parker is going to be in that role, and he is very talented. It's opportunity plus talent. So I'm going to say he gets 72 catches for 1,050 yards and 7 touchdowns. That would put him in the solid wide receiver 2 range.
I have absolutely nothing wrong with any of that, and I'd love to see Gaze use him a little bit in the screen game too. He's just an athlete.
Yeah, I think we're all on board with Devante Parker. So I'm going to keep the wide receiver theme going here, and a guy who a lot of us had slotted for a breakout last year, and then everything kind of fell apart with the entire team. And I'm going with Donte Moncrief. Do not forget about Donte Moncrief, 6'2", 220 pounds, 4.4 speed, a 40-inch vertical jump. It's his 3rd year in the league, the magic number 3 that we always like, and he's 22 years old. The season started out great for Moncrief. If you remember, he had 5 touchdowns through week 7, and then old Andy Luck.
What happened to his quarterback?
Andy Luck took some battle damage, and he went down. And then Andrew Luck actually came back for a little bit, and then he took some more battle damage to the.
What's wrong with ESPN reporter Matt Hasselbeck as your quarterback?
And so, like you said, Matt Hasselbeck was the guy, and Moncrief actually still did okay occasionally with Hasselbeck. However, the splits, when you look at Moncrief last year when he had Andrew Luck versus did not,
huge difference.
Huge difference. He's putting up over 5 PPR points a week higher, a full reception, 0.6 touchdowns. The targets were up by over 2. His reception yards were up. So here's the theme of that. He was much better when Andrew Luck was the quarterback. I'm expecting Andrew Luck to have a bounce back type of a season. I'm not calling Andrew Luck as a top 3 quarterback, just saying he will be much improved from what he was last year.
And way improved over Hasselbeck.
And yes, and a huge improvement. What is your guys' problem with Matt Hasselbeck? You are disparaging.
I like the man. I don't like
I
the
believe my
quarterback.
words were, what's wrong with Matt Hasselbeck?
I believe my words were, actually, here's what I think Jason has the problem. The hairlines are starting to match.
That's a low blow, Mike.
You're welcome. So I like Moncrief a lot moving forward. Please don't forget about him. I think that he will also be able to be had in those middle rounds. He'll be
because I won't draft him.
Yeah, we have the Moncrief, the ultimate.
Look, I hate to say it. I will take small issue here. I don't agree.
Why is that?
Because I don't think Moncrief is the guy that's going to give you consistent yardage numbers. Even with Andrew Luck, he averaged like 50 yards a game. He was touchdown dependent, and that's what made him look so good in the beginning of the year.
That's
I think
fair.
It balances out a little bit. I don't think the talent is a problem. I think there will be games like that, but that would be my one argument against Moncrief. But, hey, it's your breakout.
Yeah, and
So,
I think that
there you go.
We for a guy who's touchdown dependent, putting him on a high-scoring offense, he should be the red zone, end zone type guy. He's the one who's built for it on the team. You got T.Y. Hilton.
Andre Johnson's gone.
Tiny T.Y.
Coby
Hilton.
Fleener's gone.
And Phillip Dorsett. Now, Dwayne Allen is a red zone guy, and he's been promised his role will improve. However, I see Moncrief continuing his ascension like he did when at the first half of the year.
All right, we got to move on. Next breakout, I'm going to bring it to you. Jason tried to steal him from me after I convinced him about this guy.
Did.
But it's Eric Ebron from Detroit. I really like this guy. He doubled his production from his rookie year to last year, but he didn't do it in a fashion that will make the world all excited about him. But I'm telling you, he's 22 years old. This is the former number 10 pick in the draft. 6'4", 245. He had 8 games last year with 4 or more receptions, and Calvin Johnson is gone now. And they did bring in Marvin Jones. But the thing you need to know about Detroit is that they are an incredibly efficient red zone team. I believe they were second last year in red zone scoring percentage. Well, this is somebody who they've been able to do this, and Calvin plays a role in that. But Eric Ebron, I think he takes the next step this year in his 3rd year. I have him projected for, and here was an interesting thing, and I asked Mike this before the show. What do you think the target difference was between Tyler Eifert, everybody's favorite tight end, and Eric Ebron last year, who, by the way, they both missed a couple games. Well, the difference was 3. There was a 3-target difference between the two, but Eric Ebron had 5 touchdowns. Eifert had like 13, right? And so that's the big difference. So I project Ebron, I don't think he's going to take a leap into the stratosphere, but he becomes a viable every week starting tight end. I got him at 72 for 805 and 9 touchdowns.
Well, where was he drafted? Eric Ebron was drafted as what position?
Last year?
Yeah, no, in the NFL draft to show that talent.
Well, he was a top 10, like Andy had already previously
said. Oh, did he say that already?
Yeah, he was number 10.
I don't listen to you.
I thought you were saying it like he was drafted at a different position. I was like, a lineman? I don't know.
Kicker
Yeah,
Eric Ebron.
Your point is my point reinforced, and it's the fact that he is a talented guy. And so I really like it. The opportunities there. Calvin was number 1 in the league in, red zone touchdowns over the last 7 years. So you lose a guy like that, you got to look elsewhere, and Stafford can get the ball to big guys in the end zone. He's just got to catch them.
Yeah, that's going to be the issue. I'll make my next breakout pretty quick, because this one I worry just a little bit if he were to not be the guy. So this has to be prefaced with the fact that he has to be the starting running back, because this is all about opportunity, which is Ryan Mathews. I was super high on him last year because he is a very, very talented guy, right? But obviously opportunity comes before talent, and DeMarco Murray was the guy who got the opportunity last year. That being said, the talent could still be seen. DeMarco Murray last year managed 3.64 yards per carry.
DeMarco?
DeMarco did. Behind the same offensive line where Ryan Mathews averaged 5 yards per carry. And we have to remember, Ryan Mathews is a very good running back. It's been several years now since his very productive year with the San Diego Chargers, which is why I think we can call this a breakout again, even though he was already I think he was the 13th best running back a couple of years ago. But another thing to add to that, it's not just the fact that now Ryan Mathews is the starter, but Kansas City last year and the last several years, Doug Peterson is the new head coach for the Eagles, and Kansas City has finished top 5 in rushing touchdowns all 3 years that Doug Peterson was his offensive coordinator. So last year they were tied for the most touchdowns, and that was without Jamal Charles. So I think you've got an offense here that is going to be changing, going to be focused on rushing touchdowns and a West Coast offense that fits Ryan Mathews. I project him to get the ball. Now, this is if they don't go and bring someone else in or trade him away, because that could still happen for the Eagles. They're getting rid of everything Chip Kelly touched.
It's a fire sale.
He's got the Kelly disease. But if he is the starter, I would say he's going to get the ball 250 times, and he'll be over 1,000 yards, and he'll have at least 8 touchdowns. That's going to be an RB1, and he's definitely not going to be drafted in the first round like an RB1, I don't think.
Well, he won't go in the first round, but let's hypothesize here. Philadelphia has done nothing as far as adding a running back. Ryan Mathews is seen as the clear-cut guy. Where is his ADP?
I believe he'll go, if he's seen as the every down guy, he'll go end of the second is where I think he'll be.
Yeah,
I would agree with that.
I would guess right around the third round. So
if you could grab it, if he falls into the third and you're grabbing an RB1 type of talent in the third round, that's great. Go grab, Mr. Antonio Brown with that number 1 pick, and then get Ryan Mathews in the third on the turn.
I did not give my Moncrief stat line. I forgot to do that. But so
what do you project?
I got him at 85, 1,050, and 7 touchdowns.
Okay,
so everyone was aware.
I can get behind that. I liked Moncrief a lot coming into this last year.
All right, third breakout from each of us. Mike, who's your guy?
So my third guy here, I think I can finally get Andy on board with one of my picks here, because I'm going with Tyler Lockett. Tyler Lockett, if as you recall, from Seattle, really he broke out there in the second half of the year. Almost all of his fantasy production came there. In the first 6 weeks, he was scoring about 4 points a clip there, and then he exploded in the final 10 to about 13 a game. He scored quite a few touchdowns, but not nearly anything close to his compadre, Doug Baldwin. So there is still some wealth that can be spread around to Tyler Lockett. Seattle basically sold the farm. They sold the second half of their draft to move up just to get Tyler Lockett, where at the beginning of the year, it looked like he would just be the special teams guy, and you saw him on kick returns. You saw the talent and how special Lockett can be once he has the ball in his hands. They finally figured out how to do that towards the second half of the year when the team made a fundamental switch to the scoring was coming through the air, and Marshawn Lynch is gone. We don't know what they're going to do with their running back position. It looks like Thomas Rawls for now, but that's still very up in the air. I see Tyler Lockett not necessarily as a super stud, but I see him as a Deshaun Jackson, where he's going to have his down games, but he'll have more up games than not. And when he goes up, he's going to explode. It's going to be 70 yards, 2 touchdowns. So he'll have his monster games. Jermaine Kearse was re-signed, so that's kind of a frowny face upon that. But I believe that Lockett will supplant himself as the number 2, and that Kearse will be the third option. And Jimmy Graham, I don't expect him back at all this year. This talk of Jimmy Graham is going to be ready for week 1.
I remember when they said Victor Cruz was going to be ready week 1.
I really like Lockett. I'm with you on that. I think what I like about him is that he isn't just a burner. I mean, and I don't consider Deshaun Jackson just a burner either. He has the ability to go deep, but he showed me a lot in the second half of last year, just with the ability to, balance and body control, making hard sideline catches. He's got a work ethic. If you listen to him in interviews, that tells me he wants to become a great wide receiver. He wants to become somebody that is in that upper echelon, and that translates to fantasy. So I'm on board with you with Tyler Lockett. I think there's a much better chance that things even out between him and Baldwin in terms of distribution of touchdowns, and I don't think Russell Wilson's throwing 60 of them. But I think that Lockett is a...
So I've got Lockett coming in at... So let's see what you think of my stat line here. I got him at 70 for 900 yards and 7 touchdowns. More or less.
I'd probably take the touchdowns to 6 or 7. Yeah, I'm okay with that.
Yeah,
I think the yards could be higher.
Could be.
I think the receptions could be a little lower and the yards could be higher. But yeah, I'm fine with that. I'm going to go ahead and jump on the bandwagon with wide receiver breakouts here. I'm going to give you my last guy, and he's Michael Floyd from the Arizona Cardinals. He has been on the cusp several times. But
he's climbed the mountain.
Look, he's in the final year of his contract. He's a high work ethic guy. And if you recall, at the beginning of last year, we didn't even know the severity of it at the time. He had a very severe hand injury.
Is that bad when you're a wide receiver? If you
when your hand. What? I don't want to get grotesque here, but I believe his finger literally came out of the skin.
His knuckles.
Didn't it come out of the glove?
Possible. And I'm going to give you some insider information over here. We play flag football. I sprained my thumb. I couldn't even play.
No, Mike had his chance.
Before or after?
Mike plays linebacker. He had his chance to come in. We were down a man. We needed a wide receiver.
I felt like Michael Floyd.
I said, Mike, go run me a post corner. And I throw him the ball.
Perfect pass.
And it was a perfect pass. I mean, just naturally.
The pass was you're overrating how perfect the pass was.
It was a 9 out of 10.
And then Mike shot his hands up and darted his thumb into the ball.
The ball just drops.
And the ball drops, and he's done.
Yeah.
He's finished. And his opportunity was gone as well. So I like Michael Floyd. He look, the second half of the season, he was over 4 receptions a game. He had 100 or more yards receiving in 5 games. That's not an anomaly. That is a consistent kind of like make a big difference on your team, make a fantasy impact. I got him for 75, but I got him for 1,200 yards and 10 touchdowns.
So you have Michael Floyd, wide receiver 1.
I have Michael Floyd right on that wide receiver 1, yeah.
That's not right on. That's
75 for 1,210.
1,210.
Yep.
You're a 1.
That's a definite 1. And I do think that is a realistic possibility for him next year. I probably won't project him to finish that high, but I don't have any problem believing that he could finish that high and drafting him accordingly if that's what, you look at the tape and you believe. And I know, Andy, you've been high on him coming off of last year. You were saying for the last, month or two, that's
my guy.
That's your guy. That's your breakout guy.
It's time because Larry Fitzgerald is going to be a free agent after this season. His time as that prolific guy is already gone. I mean, he's great as the Heinz Ward underneath, high quantity, but Floyd's a guy who you look to in the red zone. You look to on the deep ball. I just really like him.
Yeah, so let's talk about my guy. I have liked this guy for longer than most because most people don't really like this guy at the level that I do. So maybe I'll be here at an island, or maybe I can convince you. But going into last year...
It's because he has those delicious locks of hair.
Does he still have them?
No, I don't think he does anymore.
No, but he had long...
He shipped them to Jason. Jason asked.
Yeah, so last year
Could
coming
I have
in...
some of that?
Because he's going to make a wig.
We don't even know who you're talking about yet.
Yes, one of the better values coming into last year, I believe, at the tight end position was actually Coby Fleener. He had been
nobody wanted him.
Well, that's part of it, right? I want people at the tight end. I want someone that nobody else wants, which means I can get him late in a draft. I would rather draft a guy nobody wants who's going to be great than a guy who's going to be great that everybody wants, and I got to get him high.
I can sell you something. I can have a product that stinks and nobody wants it, so there's a value there.
All right, well, let me sell you on his actual value here then, Mike.
Coby.
So the last couple years, he has been on a team that does not actually use the tight end that much. Over the last 3 years, they've averaged about 60 receptions to the tight end position. A little bit more, a little bit less, depending on the year that you're looking at. Over those three, Coby Fleener has been extraordinarily consistent, catching about 50 balls a year.
And playing every game.
Playing every game, hasn't been hurt. And I don't know if you realize this, one of the things I really like about him is he is built to be a down-the-field receiver. He is 6'6", 250 pounds, and he runs a 4.5 40.
Whoa, I didn't...
He is an athletic guy who has a very good, ability to catch down the field balls. Well, so now he's changing.
Yeah, he is.
But now he's going from a team that didn't really utilize the tight end in route running that much by comparison to pretty much the number one team for utilizing tight end production down the field. The last 3 years for the New Orleans Saints, they have over 100 receptions to the tight end position.
Ben Watson ran so many long routes.
Ben Watson caught 74 balls last year, and he's 34 years old.
Listen to that conviction. Listen to that conviction.
And now you have...
Turn his mic down. No.
Now you have Coby Fleener, a 6'6", 250-pound guy with 4.5 wheels coming in to a position that will be used. I love him. I think
200 receptions, 2,000 yards.
I think he's going to have at least 75 receptions, 925 yards, and 8 touchdowns. Pretty much just a slight bump up from what Ben Watson did last year, and that will put him as an absolute top 5 tight end next year. And I don't believe you're going to draft him earlier than the 10th tight end. That's what I'm looking for. Coby Fleener's my guy.
I can buy into almost all of that. Almost. Well, my actual bigger problem is I don't think he'll be the 10th tight end. I think he will surge over the summer, and people will
Can I give you a quick...
In terms of where he's drafted?
The shine will go on.
Can I give you a quick list of names and see if you think by the time the summer comes whether they'll draft?
Yeah, I like that game.
Obviously,
okay.
Gronk.
Maybe.
Yeah. So Gronk, Jordan Reed, Greg Olsen, Tyler Eifert, Travis Kelce, those guys are gone ahead of him.
Yes.
For sure. I think Gary Barnidge is...
I don't.
Okay, maybe not. Amazingly, in average drafts, certainly not in ours, I think Jimmy Graham might get taken high.
Maybe.
Julius Thomas. Delaney Walker.
Walker, yes.
Yeah. Austin Safarian-Jenkins.
But he's in that 6 or 7 range to 13.
Yeah, Zach Ertz.
Yeah.
Ladarius Green now.
If he surges up, yeah.
So I think, maybe I would take him as high as the 6th or 7th tight end, but it just depends.
You take him over Gary Barnidge?
Yeah, I would.
Okay.
Ooh.
And I like Gary Barnidge.
Right. Yeah. All right. Well, we did want to try to come up with a consensus. I'm going to be honest with you guys. We have all this conviction with our individual breakouts, all three of us, and we agree with some, disagree with some. We came up with a name of a guy that we like, but I'm not all in. I'm not all in. So I don't know if we want
doing it.
We don't need to.
Well, let's just
already brought it up.
Let's just do this. We'll throw out another name that I think all three of us think could have a
hypothetical breakout,
which is Carlos Hyde.
I like him, man. I like Carlos Hyde. I like Chip Kelly coming into town. High snap offense. I understand that they don't have the greatest personnel, but I think Chip Kelly's play calling and his the rate of which the plays are called makes a big difference. You have more opportunity, and you look back last year.
I try not to look back last year because he reminds me a lot more of DeMarco Murray than Ryan Mathews.
I agree, but he ran so good before his foot injury.
No, he didn't.
Yes, he did.
He did not. He had a breakout week 1, and then he slowed. That offensive line has not been fixed.
Stats.
If you don't have his stats, yes, he's a good runner. I agree with you, but I don't know if the offensive line is there. The reason I'm tentative on it is simply offensive line hasn't been fixed. Chip Kelly showed me he can mismanage a running back in the way that damages him for fantasy. And so if those things are fixed, well, then maybe I'm on board.
Murray was still an RB2, right?
He met 0.0 percentage of expectations for anybody who had.
Yeah, I understand expectations.
Certainly wasn't a breakout.
Aren't we trying to set expectations right now?
No, but I'm going back to the point that you said he damaged him, and for as bad and terrible as we remember DeMarco being, he was an RB2. That's my whole point, is that your memory is tainted because the expectations weren't made, yet he was still a serviceable running back for a majority of the year.
And again, we talked about this name as a consensus for a reason. I like the talent of Hyde. He's a tackle breaker. He's runs hard. He has to stay healthy. The offensive line has to provide, and then Chip Kelly's got to use them right. Those are the three pieces where if they happen in some capacity, I'm with you. I think we can all be in on it.
I think Hyde can fill the role more like a Mathews than DeMarco Murray. I agree completely that Murray was not the right fit for his system. I think Hyde is more of that guy. So
certainly younger.
Our consensus should have been Latavius Murray, right? I mean, clearly he's the guy.
All right, let's move on to the mailbag.
Mailbag.
Mailbag, yeah.
Surprised you didn't yell Latavius' name. All right, if you have a question for the show.
You're surprised Jason didn't?
Yeah. Well, he's a little gun shy after that last mailbag attempt.
Oh, I
was that on the Join the Foot show?
Yeah, it was.
All right. Well, let's go ahead and go to the mailbag. We want to answer some questions from the listeners. If you want to submit one, go to the website, thefantasyfootballers.com, click the Submit a Question button, or dial our voicemail line, 302-464-TFFB, and we'll go ahead and answer a voicemail question to start us off.
Howdy, boys. This is Chiefy from Dayton. Just got a keeper question for you. I'm in a 10-person half-point PPR. No round penalty. I have 3 guys to choose from. Picked up Le'Veon Bell off waivers, Adrian Peterson, and Rob Gronkowski. Thanks, guys. Love the show. Bye.
So no round penalty for him, and so you got Lev Bell, AP, and Gronkowski, and you need to pick one keeper.
Oof.
That's a tough one. You got more risk with Le'Veon Bell, as much as I'd love to sugarcoat that. You have a little bit more risk with the injury history recently. I'm taking Le'Veon Bell.
I'm still taking Le'Veon as well.
In a redraft league, I have actually put Adrian Peterson ahead of Le'Veon Bell. Just in my rankings, I believe they're both great, and they're both, if you want to take either one of them at number 1.
All formats, all scoring formats, you're fine with?
Yeah, I do. Just because Adrian Peterson, I feel like you know what you're going to get, less risk than Le'Veon Bell, and still phenomenal talent. That being said, if this is a keeper league, next year to keep Adrian Peterson versus if Le'Veon Bell has a great year, I'm going to go Le'Veon Bell as well. So it'll be a clean sweep for the Bell.
All right, Philip in Mesa, Arizona has a question for us. He said, I have picks 1, 10, and 26 in a 16-team Dynasty League. He may have an Ohio State fan that's willing to part ways with Gurley for that first overall. And so he simply wants to know who's more valuable, Gurley or Ezekiel Elliott.
This is so obvious.
Yeah, it's Gurley.
Clearly Gurley. One of
not
these
even
guys.
Close.
Yeah, because when you draft that number 1 spot, you are hoping that the potential comes through. Well, it's already been actualized in Todd Gurley. The potential came through, and you saw he was great. So,
and statistically, you don't have very many examples of rookie years as good as Gurley's. So you're projecting, a needle in a haystack season.
Fleece the guy. If you got to give the number 1 and your second round pick for me, I would do it.
I probably would too.
No, I would never give my first and second for that. Here's a hypothetical situation for you though. Dallas takes Eazy-E number 4.
If Dallas took Eazy-E number 4, I would only give the number 1 for Easy. But I would rather have Todd Gurley, who I've seen him in the NFL. I know he can be great. We don't know yet. I mean, Eazy-E going to Dallas, hey, that sounds great. But I'm still hoping that the potential is actualized.
He would be a monster. a monster.
Andrew in Portland, Maine says, gentlemen, love the show. Every time I get depressed, football is so far away. The fantasy footballers are there to pick me up with some
It's
killer
not that far. We're almost
analysis.
there.
I am in a deep 10-team, 2 quarterback, 2 running back, 2 wide receiver, 3 flex league, and I'm looking at keepers. I have to choose 2 from the following. All are round 15, 16 draft picks. Number 1 is
David Johnson. Here. Sorry, got a little.
you're supposed to read the rest of it.
Oh, all right. Thomas Rawls.
No, I mean the rest of David Johnson, but now it's been lost. There it is.
Yeah,
All right,
that's
Andrew
the backup
Luck,
singer. That's got to be someone else.
Tony Romo, Keenan Allen, and then as Jason said, Thomas Rawls. So David Johnson and Rawls are my picks.
Ooh. David Johnson is in for me, and
Yeah, it's absolutely David Johnson, Thomas Rawls for me.
Well, you could go Luck or Romo, 2 quarterback league.
Oh, it's a 2 quarterback league?
Yeah, this is called
No.
that's that listening thing you
Yeah,
need
it's
to do.
not my forte. I'm definitely going David Johnson and Luck then, without
Really?
a doubt. Yeah, without a doubt.
And I'm going to actually change to that too.
really?
Yep.
2 quarterback to
As
have
of
Andrew
today,
Luck.
if you knew Rawls was locked in like in a couple months, and you knew he was locked and loaded, he's healthy, he's ready to go, they're going to give him the ball, and like they were last year. Which again, I still think the odds favor that, but I don't know it.
Right.
So I would I'd take Luck and Johnson.
If I
If-
knew all that, I would still take Luck and Johnson.
If I knew all that, it would be Johnson and Rawls, but because I don't, right now it's Rawls, or it's David Johnson and Keenan Allen for me.
All right, Patrick in St. Louis says he has to keep 2. His options are Mike Evans, Brandon Cooks, Jeremy Hill, Devante Parker, Carlos Williams, and Chris Ivory.
Oh, all right.
So can keep them forever. Doesn't have to give anything special up for them. Says he loves the show. #Foot Clan title.
Yeah.
So 2 options there.
Well, it's really only one option because Mike Evans is a lock.
I agree with you.
Stone cold lock of the week.
I think Brandon Cooks is a lock in this roster
Really?
as well. Unless you want to go running back.
Cooks over Parker?
Yeah, absolutely.
Really?
Yeah. Cooks was
Oh, no, I know
correct
what
me if I'm
he's-
wrong, but Cooks was the number 12 wide receiver this
Yeah,
last year.
I
Right?
don't
You
have a problem with
projected
Cooks.
Parker in that range.
I projected Parker about 18. So for me, I still think it's once again,
But
you're going to
it's
be
a
able to
keeper league.
draft Parker where you can't draft Cooks. So keep Cooks and draft Parker if you want him. That being said, you've got 2 wide receivers kept.
Yeah,
You're probably
I
going to draft
suppose
a
I
running
was
back.
just thinking longer term.
Yeah, you
Th-
could be
than-
wrong. You might not be able to draft him in a better position in this league.
Yeah, maybe not, but those would be my 2. Evans certainly a lock. I would go Cooks over Parker, and Parker was my breakout.
Yeah, I would go Evans and Cooks. I was thinking the only thing I was thinking was Parker. I was thinking of Dynasty, and I like Parker more than Cooks.
All right, Richard in St. Augustine, Florida
Richard!
says, I am in a 12-team PPR league that drafts non-snake. What 3 should I keep with no round penalty? I'll be drafting from the 11th position each round. AP, DeMarco Murray, Randall Cobb, Cam Newton, Ryan Mathews, and Keenan Allen. Mind you, it's a PPR league.
Man, that DeMarco Murray trade was pretty important for this guy because he's got DeMarco Murray and Ryan Mathews and not 2 great of options.
I'm struggling with the third. Peterson and Allen are in for me.
As they are for me. I would probably... I'm going to go with DeMarco Murray.
Man, that's
a call.
That's tough. I think it's Mathews for me. PPR. If this is the assumption that the Eagles don't add somebody of note, and Ryan Mathews looks like he's going to be that Charles for Douglas Peterson up there, then it would be Mathews for me.
Yeah, I think in a PPR I would have to do the same thing. Obviously, wait as long as you can in picking your guy. If they bring someone else in, which I think is or ship Mathews out, though that's a realistic proposition, then go DeMarco Murray. But Adrian Peterson and Keenan Allen
Have we
are locks.
really swung that far away from Randall Cobb?
Yep.
1 year. I mean,
I think he's going to
Not
present
that far.
a good
Yeah,
value.
he's fine.
He's going to present a good value
He's
for
a
where
great
he's
player.
drafted.
but it's saying like he's a PPR stud. Was
Not over Keenan Allen.
no, not over Allen. I'm saying over that third spot of where
I like DeMarco a lot.
we're taking the gamble of Murray, who, like you said, had just the absolute atrocious year. And
Yeah,
now-
but he was a 2, you said.
right. And you send him to an offense that, while we feel is ascending,
But the workload, man. It's the workload.
Yeah, the opportunities there. Just saying that sucks for Cobb, man. The opinion on him has shifted so
I think that's
drastically.
great for people who draft Cobb. He's being drafted right now as a 23rd wide receiver.
What?
Yeah. Well, he'll be 22nd because Martavis Bryant's ahead of him.
Wait, what? As in that's too far for you?
He was when Jordy was there. He was a wide receiver 1.
Time, man. Time goes by. Things don't stay the same. We don't get to go back in time. We don't get to say Ryan Mathews from 4 years ago is what it would be this year. We don't get to say Cobb from 2 years ago. That offense will be different. The players will be different. I'm with you. I understand. But he has to have a rebound. You have to rubber bound one direction.
Different. I don't think it's that different. It's not drastically different.
So what are the odds that he repeats last year and has the same season? The most recent evidence we have of Cobb is disappointment.
Right, but that's full-on recency bias to me.
I'm happy to be recently biased as opposed to the distant past bias.
But it's
2 years.
You're also not taking into account, though, that it's not just recency bias of he did it this year, but you have to look at, what was the reason? What was the reason?
You cannot, for 100% sure, say Jordy Nelson solves Eddie Lacy, Jordy Nelson solves Randall Cobb, Jordy Nelson solves Aaron Rodgers.
No, of course not. But what I can say for 100% certainty was that Jordy Nelson was out for the whole year, and that had an effect
on Randall Cobb.
On the Green Bay Packers.
Okay. Well, when Mike McCarthy took over, everybody thought Randall Cobb. That was the excuse then, too. He's taking him over. Randall Cobb's going to be utilized heavily now that Mike McCarthy's calling plays, and it didn't happen. So I'm just reserving the possibility that that's an appropriate draft position for a guy who had a really disappointing season.
I feel like this is a bear versus lion.
Oh, no.
So we're gonna close this out with apparently a very, very long question that Jason put in here. So I'm going to let him take care of it. Nick and Hunter. All
right. It's more of a story. He says he's going to try to keep this short, but he doesn't. Says, we have a member who won the league in 2012. This was the first year of our league, and we had a trophy made. Well, the next year, our buddy from Hawaii won the league, and he never received the trophy. We finally got Jack to admit that he didn't send it because the shipping was too expensive. Hawaii. After the 2014 season, we had another champion, and when it came time for him to receive the trophy, Jack claimed he lost it when he moved. Dun, dun, dun. We believed him. He had moved twice over this time with the trophy. Well, we are slackers at heart, and nobody replaced the trophy. Fast forward to this season, about halfway through the season, me and Jack take a road trip to visit another buddy in Pennsylvania. I'm in his garage grabbing a soda for the road, and what do I see on the shelf? Our fantasy football trophy. After all this time, it's just sitting in his garage. We haven't called him out on it yet, but we have asked him if he's found it, and he still claims that it has been lost. How would you deal with this? Do we kick him out? Do we have him forfeit a first-round pick? Please help.
All right, I got a little lost here in this story. So Jack has the trophy.
Yes. He said he lost it.
He claimed he lost it so he didn't have to send it to the next winner.
But then he went on a road trip with Jack.
Yeah, and when he went on that trip, he saw it in Jack's garage.
Yeah.
So I would say
I was seeing it at the buddy's house.
No, so first and foremost, Nick, the question is, why didn't you say something when you saw the trophy in his garage?
Hey, see something, say something.
For instance, what is that trophy doing in your garage? You said you lost it.
Or possibly, hey, Jack, is that our trophy? What else we got?
Or you could have gone with, hey, Jack, you cheap son of a gun. Why didn't you ship that to Hawaii or to the person that won the league?
Let's help Nick out. What does he do now that he's waited that long?
There are different options. If you're close friends with Jack and you don't want to boot him out of the league, shame is the next best option.
I agree.
You force him to pay a penalty of sorts. Maybe he's responsible for the shipping costs for the next 5 years of moving that trophy around the league.
That's pretty good.
If he wants to stay around.
What?
You could also water him.
How have you?
Yeah, get the water wheel. Wheelofwater.com.
I'm with you guys. I am baffled. How do you see the trophy and not just annihilate him on site?
Well, you don't know how big a deal it was. You know, it might have been like, oh man, do I bring this up? We made a big deal of this. Jack and I had a bad relationship in the past, and we're finally together now. I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt, make up a storyline for Nick here.
All right. Well,
call it to his attention.
Those are some options.
Saw it in the garage, and just have him bring the trophy out, and then publicly mock him. And
there you go.
Did you take a picture? I mean, you have to, like, if nothing else, you take a picture.
Well, if he lies about it when you call him out to his face, then it's time to move on. Find a new league, buy a new trophy. Say sayonara. We can be friends, but not league mates.
Yeah.
So, hey, before we close the show out, and you do want to stay tuned for the show after the show on YouTube, I do want to say this. We're on Spotify now.
Yeah.
So our podcast, if you use Spotify and you'd like to listen to us there, that is another place you can follow us on Spotify. All our episodes show up there as well. So they've just added podcasts and they've invited us on board. And so we are in Spotify. And we'll be back on Thursday. So hope you enjoyed the show, the early breakouts. If you have some ideas, some things, send them in to us, some questions. We'll be here.
We got a fun show after the show today.
Is that what we're going with? Okay.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the Fantasy Footballers Podcast. Join our fantasy football community on jointhefoot.com and follow us on Twitter @TheFFBallers.